So, second chapter, Efficacy of Raja Yoga, Sahaj Marg. I am opening today the greatest wonder of our system of Raja Yoga in the light of Sahaj Marg. Very few people realize the efficacy of this system. We think of one thing and one alone, the superhuman nature. We call it either the guru or the object of concentration. We have put one thought, and that is of a certain personality, superhuman in form, and very soon we find ourselves attached to the form so much that other things begin to look secondary. We attach importance to one and the same thing. If we pump our water straight into a channel, it will flow by its own force to some extent and at the same time with the help of the machinery attached at the butt end. Similarly, we proceed in the channel of the Almighty with the thread of thought, attaching our will force at its butt end from the starting point. The will force comes from the individual mind, which makes our way clear. We keep to the idea of pumping out a certain thing from its proper place, called the individual mind. So, the most fundamental thing is in Sahaj Marg, all that we do is we think of one and one thing alone about the superhuman nature. You can call it by any name. So, there is a channel of the Almighty, and we connect it with the channel of the Almighty with the thread of thought, attaching our will force at its starting point. This will force is coming from the individual mind. We keep the idea of pumping out certain things from its proper place, which is the individual mind. So we use the mind for our journey essentially. That is why it is called as Raja Yoga or the king of the yogas. Now the mind is the most powerful instrument given by God, which is nothing but a representative of the original stir in the grander scheme of things. So the same stir has come into human being as individual mind. So we take help of that mind to cross over that stir and establish ourselves in the center. That's all that we do. The force increases day by day, and our individual mind too, having the idea of going above, becomes stronger and thus begin to lose its bad training. It serves a double purpose. It cleans the individual mind and also brings the goal of human life within the reach. So by practicing Raja Yoga, you are achieving two things simultaneously. You are actually cleaning the individual mind of its bad tendencies or wrong tendencies, but also bringing the goal of human life within the reach. When you reach this stage, you find yourself soon jumping into the ocean of eternal bliss and sublimity. And when your thought becomes so strong that it begins to dwell permanently in the midst of the waves of the ocean, every other thing downward then seems to be fading away. You have no other thought but that which you have made already. The result is that the things you see down below looks like objects in a deep valley which observe from a very high peak. So one of the things we keep talking about as an example is when you view things from the ground floor, things appear in one way. You go to the first floor through a lift, look at the things which were in the ground floor, it appears different. You go to the second floor, it appears different. So as you proceed higher and higher floors, the thing which is there in the ground floor appears different and distant. Exactly the same thing occurs as we march in our journey through the 13 spiritual points. As we proceed through the spiritual points, when we look down at the things in the Pinda Pradesh, they appear differently. When we look down at the objects that are there in the world, they appear differently. Because we move further and further away from these objects and they appear at a distance. When you do not see the things below, you feel no attachment with them. In other words, the more closer you are to something, the more likelihood of the attachment. The further you are away from them, the attachment gradually decreases. This is exactly what happens in many cases of long distance love. The attachment decreases. So say somebody are married, some people are married, a couple is married for some period of time, and then because of some job, one of them moves to some other continent. It is quite possible, and we have seen in many cases that the attachment between the couple gradually decreases because of the distance where they live. So this is one thing. You do not see the things below, or you are further away from the things below, you feel no attachment with them. In the long run, the goal becomes quite vivid to the eyes, and there remains nothing but the object you have really and correctly made. Now you are free from worldly attachments. I mean to say, you see things, but you attach no weight to them. This thing continues for some time as long as you have the idea of the same nature. As time goes on, you feel yourself to be free from forgetful as a sleeping person who satisfies his itching sensation in a perfectly unconscious state during sleep. This is exactly what will be the last stage that we reach. So we reach a state of being free and forgetful, just like a sleeping person. A man who is far away from the place where a band of music is being played does not hear its sound, while another man standing nearby feels it, but little if he is deeply absorbed in his own thought. He does not find himself with the music, but feels himself dwelling in his own previous thoughts. How does he acquire that state of mind? The reply, as already said above, is that he finds himself absorbed in something of the most important nature. So we are absorbed in something of very important nature. Although we are in the midst of the activity, we don't feel the impression of that activity on our mind or heart. Then naturally, the unimportant things will have no effect on him. This is the condition of vairagya or renunciation. Now, this happens many times. Suppose you are reading for exam, you are sitting in front of the television and reading for the exam. Whatever else might be happening in the television, you don't actually pay much attention to that. You are immersed in the studying of the book that you are actually doing for the examination. So this happens naturally for many people in different stages of their life. But we don't normally pay attention to these things that happens naturally. This is exactly another thing that is happening here. When we are attached to something more important and more interesting, unimportant things in our life gradually fade away. The inattention that we feel towards worldly objects does not allow our heart to be impressed by things other than that of this important nature, the pious thought of realization he now has. For an Abhyasi, the only important thing is to seek his goal within his own self. Many people are striving hard for vairagya or renunciation. How easily it is gained, an Abhyasi has no idea but of his own goal, and due to that, he has lost all that is not worth having. So the only worth thing worth having in life is the goal, which is realization. When our mind gets attached to the goal of realization firmly, then all unimportant things gradually fade away from our attention. And that state where we become inattentive to unimportant things in our life, that is called as vairagya. Now, initially, some of the unimportant things gradually drop away. Later on, even the important things, if we are overdoing it, they also drop away or they get moderated. And then once they come into moderation, what you will see is that those objects, even that is important in your life, ceases to cause any impact on your mind or heart as an impression. This is what happens. This is the natural progression of the vairagya. And the simple way to develop vairagya is become more and more aligned towards the goal and always allow the mind to continue to flow in the direction of the goal. That's all that you have to do. Vairagya will develop automatically. You don't need to struggle to develop vairagya. Okay? You have gained vairagya or renunciation by the elementary practice of Raja Yoga. Your individual mind, in a way, has now connected with the plane of everlasting peace and happiness. In other words, you have made the way from your individual mind towards the higher region. The gentle waves of calm in the region of the Almighty begin to flow directly to it, which is the individual mind, and so in the long run, you become one with it. So when the mind gets aligned to something higher, the waves from that region starts coming down to the individual mind, and the individual mind starts taking the nature of that higher region. That is what happens. We thought of one thing and one only, alone, attaching ourselves to the thing far above our conception. Many people have this. How can I actually think about, or how can I allow a mind to go in the direction of something that I don't even have a conception of? This is a question that many abhyasis will come and ask you when they come to you for sitting. If you say you keep this as a goal, they will say, how can I keep this as a goal? I don't have any concept of this at all. So now Babuji is answering this. We thought of one thing and one alone, attaching ourselves to that thing far above our conception. Now, the idea of grossness is now in our heart. Naturally, we feel ourselves as its part or a trifling thing in comparison to that. We do it over and over again. Now we have made the passage by connecting our thought with the higher region for realization. We feel that we are grosser. Since we are grosser, that thing which we have now thought of is finer. Once you start connecting to that finer thing, we also start becoming finer. As we practice this, the clouds of the darkness begins to disperse, and a vacuum is created by the force of the will. The power then begins to rush in a higher degree, with the result that the individuality goes away and the mind remains. So what happens in the Pinda Pradesh is the individuality goes away to a certain extent, but the mind remains. That's why the journey in the heart region is the journey of getting over the individuality as far as the identification with the body is concerned. Journey in the mind region is a process where we gradually detach from the mind, or we don't identify ourselves with the mind as me. So in the heart region, the body identification is lost. In the mind region, the mind identification is lost. That is what happens. That is our journey. When the mind separates itself from the godly mind, it begins to call itself as the individual mind. Originally, there was only one mind, which was the God's mind. When the mind, our mind dissociates from the God, we call that as an individual mind. Why do we feel it separated? It is because of the function of the big mind on it ceased to exist on account of our own doings and our goings the wrong path. So the big mind of God or the super mind of God or the first mind of God was always having an influence on our mind. But when we separate ourselves from the big mind ceases to have its impact on our mind. That is when we say that we have now separated from the godly mind and we have our own individual mind. It gets saturated with these things so much that we feel nothing of reality but feel only of the impressions that these things have already made. This is exactly what happens. When the individual mind is going towards the godly mind, it gets the attributes of the godly mind. When the mind is going away from the godly mind, it goes on making impressions of the things which are there in the outer world. So the body and the mind can be utilized for two purposes. Either you can utilize it for forming more samskaras, or you can utilize it for the journey towards the God, of the individual mind towards the godly mind. So for both these things, the body and mind can be utilized. But normally, when we are actually entangled in this world, our mind is always going downward and outward towards the worldly objects, and that's why we get entangled by forming the samskaras. The more we form the samskaras, the more further away we are from the godly mind, from the influence of the godly mind. It gets saturated with these things so much that we feel nothing of reality but feel only of the impressions that these things have already made. Now, these impressions are called as samskaras. The impressions grow so powerful that they begin to overrule our senses. The surroundings, no doubt, also leave impressions on it. Now, when we give place to that important idea, the pious one, on the mind of ours, the impressions we have made begin to lose their density, and in the course of time, we are free from these things. The effect of what is prevailing in that big mind is felt as well. If you go on practicing, you will feel the same thing in your individual mind as there is above it. When you feel these things permanently in your individual mind, think that you have lost its individuality. In other words, the mind has lost its individuality. This is what happens as we progress in our Sahajmarg system of meditation. When the time of creation came, the latent motion beneath the center grew stronger, causing a stirring movement, which later led to the formation of the universe. This may be called the first mind or the supermind of God. We owe our origin to that mind, which we call as the first mind. On the back of the first mind, there is the center, or the state of thumb, which is clearly explained in my book, The Commentary on the 10 Magazines of Sahajmarg. If you have brought your individual mind to the level of the first mind, then all that you have to do is only to jump above the first mind to where there is the center or the Almighty. When you realize yourself to become one with that state, you have realized the true reality. So only two steps. Align the individual to the first mind of God, and then jump over the first mind to the reality or to the center. And you have reached reality. Only two steps in our journey. So if you look at it that way, the Hajmarg is very, very shortcut. So align the individual mind to the first mind or the big mind of God, jump over that big mind to establish our connection with the center, then we are in reality. There you swim and swim, nobody knows its end. When this thing comes to you, you feel everything, everywhere, plainness, simplicity, and calmness. So when you are swimming in that infinite ocean around the center, what is there? There is only simplicity, calmness, and plainness. When you begin to live in that state without any break, even these three things seems to be lost. That means you have no impression of even these things. Oneness is reigning now. This is the thing that we gain by our elementary practice. See the efficacy of the system and put yourself to work. We generally lay stress upon meditation, apparently on the human form. The critics may perhaps consider it suicidal to the spiritual feelings. The case is not so, provided the person meditated upon is one of special caliber who has come down from the immaterial absolute for spiritual training, or one who has attained the spiritual standard of evolution required for the purpose of supreme self exertion, or one who is established permanently in the state of complete self negation. We take the example of our master Samarth Guru, Mahatma Sri Ramchandraji Maharaj of Fatehgarh, UP. The thing you will soon come to light, and the world will remember him even after, ever after. He was one with nature. If we meditate upon such a great soul, the substance we are seeking for will come by itself. Mathematically, if A is equal to B and B is equal to C, then A is equal to C. If you have selected such a master as your guide, the problem of the life will be solved very easily. I quote an example. Arjuna asked Sri Krishna, those who worship you and those who worship the absolute, of these, which are the greatest yogis? Lord Krishna answered, those who worship me with the highest faith and constancy are the greatest yogis. Those who worship and devote themselves to the unmanifest absolute or the omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent, their difficulty is greater in the struggle. For in fact, this path is trodden with great difficulty by an embodied soul by self-effort. So if you want to kind of progress through a master or directly, the progress through directly is far more difficult. But progress through a spiritual master who is established in the state of complete self-negation or in one with the ultimate is far more easier. When we begin to love such a soul, which becomes the object of our concentration, nature's power then begins to run through us, for the great soul is endowed with such powers. Our emotions and feelings, made worse by our wrongdoings, begin now to come to their original form and attain the higher excellence. By original form, I mean that condition in which we were at the time when we took human form for the first time. Our function and work being unregulated, the mind undisciplined, we seek the shelter of such a great soul or the master. The process of taking the master as an object of concentration is no doubt very efficacious, but only when the master is really one of the highest caliber, merged in the infinite or transformed as nature personified. If it is otherwise, the effect produced on the abhyasi will be the reverse and highly detrimental for their ultimate purpose. Vairagya, as it is commonly understood today, is only an outward show of asceticism, detachment from all world relationships, and total disregard to the duties of life. Really speaking, it is neither the forced physical detachment nor the aversion to or hatred for worldly objects required in life, nor any other thing of that kind. It is simply an inner feeling that turns our heart away from all that is superfluous for our normal living. Thus, even an ordinary man leading a worldly life, looking to all worldly affairs, and possessing and claiming things for his requirement, can well acquire the state of Vairagya in his ordinary worldly. So just underline that. It is simply an inner feeling that turns our heart away from all things that are superfluous for our normal living. That is one of the definitions of Vairagya. Just underline that. Okay, I'll just stop here. Any questions I'll take. So Sahajmarg is the chapter that we just now read. Any questions? They're all
Brother,
fairly straightforward. Yeah, go ahead, sister.
big mind, individual mind, sorry, big mind and first mind are one and the same.
Exactly. So Babaji uses three words: big mind of God, first mind of God, super mind of God. All the three are one and the same. Although it is designated at different places as differently, they're all one and the same.
Okay.
So our job is very simple. In our meditation, we gradually align our individual mind towards the big mind. In other words, the big mind's influence starts playing a role on the individual mind. Then the individual mind starts losing all unnecessary things that it is carrying and comes under the influence of the big mind. What is
Okay.
there in the big mind? In the big mind, perfect calm and peace and stillness is there. That also we get onto the individual mind.
Individual.
All that we have to do is jump over the big mind and then you are in the center. That means you have reached your goal, which is
Goal.
the reality.
Okay.
Very simple, only two-step process. So there are two, if you want to kind of subdivide that, aligning the first mind, aligning our individual mind to first mind means first we have to lose our individuality. Now the individuality is at two levels. Individuality is at the level of the body, individuality at the level of the mind. Initially in the Pinda Pradesh, we lose the individuality at the level of the body, or we lose body consciousness. As we proceed through the mind region, we lose the mind consciousness also. That is then we become enabled to align with the big mind of God. This is the process. ರಾಜು ಅವರೇ ಏನಾರು ಕೇಳ್ಬೇಕೇನ್ರಿ? ಏನು ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಇದ್ರೆ we'll just proceed. If there is no other thing, we'll just proceed on to the next chapter, which is meditation. In Raja Yoga, we generally start with meditation. Again, there are some parts which are repetition, but it's kind of laying emphasis on some aspects. So just keep an eye on that. In Raja Yoga, we generally start with meditation. There's a great underlying philosophy in it. We find ourselves all the time busy with worldly things. If we are not doing anything, our thoughts seem to have wings in their leisure hours. We are always in tumult and disorder. Our individual mind has become used to such type of character, and thus we have made everything topsy-turvy. So the most important thing, we make samskaras when we are not engaged in any activity. That is when our mind is going in all directions and creating samskaras. Our actions and thoughts count much in our wrong making. When we remain in contact with the ideas and thoughts of different kinds, they leave impression upon our emotional feelings and senses. All the senses are thus spoiled and adopt a wrong course. So there are three things. When we remain in contact with the ideas and thoughts, that's the first thing that we do. We remain in contact with the ideas and thoughts. We don't remain detached from it. That is where the problem lies. We always remain in contact with our ideas and thought. When we do that, what happens? They leave impressions upon our emotional feelings and senses. So this is the impact of us being in contact with the ideas and thoughts. It leaves an impression on the emotions and the senses. Now the senses get spoiled and adopt a wrong course. When such practice continues for a long time, we make them worse. The marks we thus make upon the senses and the indriyas turn them rock solid, having no bodh or wisdom. The soul is no doubt not acted upon, but we create such obstacles and coverings which keep it enwrapped all around like a cocoon of a silkworm. What happens then? We cannot peep into the soul. What of realizing it? By the effect of our vicious thoughts and actions, we spoil our sense of discrimination and right cognition. You underline these two. This is exactly why Babu Daje has given this prayerful suggestion that always develop correct thinking, right understanding, and honest approach to life. They are all prayerful suggestions and they all act in work. And this is exactly what happens. By the effect of our vicious thoughts and actions, we have spoiled our sense of discrimination and right cognition. Those who have reached this state of solidity, as said above, do not like to come under the teachings of Raja Yoga. This is why people turn a deaf ear to what you say. If somehow or other they make a firm determination to reach reality, the power of the master shall affect them. At the same time, I want to add that these things can be shattered only with the help of such a master who has the power of transmission to break open the wrapped up things and to remove complexities. Of course, the abhyas is directed to meditate on certain points of concentration I mean on one of the chakras figuratively called as lotuses. We generally take the heart for meditation. The heart is the pumping station of the blood. It sends out the blood after purification to different nerves and cells of the body. Now we have taken the heart as the center of meditation. The blood that runs through our system is now affected. The solidity due to our own thoughts and actions begin to melt away. This is one of the primary benefits that you get when you start meditating on the heart. The solidity which is running through our system because of our own wrong thoughts and actions, they start melting away. This is the first thing we begin to gain from the very first day by this method of meditation on the heart. Please underline that. The solidity due to our own thoughts and actions begin to melt away. This is the first benefit that you get from the first day of meditation on the heart. Now, people may ask, why is it necessary to proceed with meditation at the first stage of Raja Yoga? The answer is quite plain and simple. We are now gathering ourselves at one point so that the individual mind may leave its habit of wandering about, which is that found. So we need to come to one point. The individual mind is wandering in all directions. So when we bring the attention of the mind on the heart, we are bringing the individual mind onto one place, one point. By this practice, we set our individual mind on the right path because it is now metamorphosizing its habit. What do you mean metamorphosizing? The individual mind is used to running in multiple directions. Now, when you allow the individual mind to rest on the heart during meditation, it is losing that particular habit and changing into a different habit. So it is learning to rest at one particular point. That is what is happening, and that is what Babaji means. The individual mind is metamorphosizing the habit, its habit. When this is done, our thoughts naturally do not go astray. It is a Hindu belief and a correct one too that when we first came into being, we were complete and we were all in close touch with the Almighty. As time went on, degeneration set in with the result that we now find ourselves in the lower stratum of humanity. Who created these things within us? It is only we ourselves and nobody else. It is we who have undermined ourselves. It is we who have thrown ourselves into the gloomy dungeon far, far away from the godly kingdom. It is we who have wrought this havoc within us, making thereby a network interwoven by the fibers of our own wrong and vicious thoughts. Now, we want to go back through the downward motion to the condition from which we had come down. We use our central force at one point, just as the Almighty did when He created the world by issuing forth the powers of creation from just beneath the center through the force of His will, in different forms and colors like the fibers of a net to complete the creation. It was one with Him when there was no creation. He has been at His center and shall be there when the things which have come down go back to Him or to the original point called the center. We begin to weave our own fibers of different hues and colors, and we are all the time with them. Now we want to return to our own center. The process naturally will be to draw these things to the point of origin. So you gradually start withdrawing all these things that you have projected out. It's very similar to a tortoise withdrawing all its limbs and its neck just under the shell. When it has to do certain things, when it has to move, it puts the neck out, it puts the legs out, and then starts moving. Once it has reached the place where it's supposed to, then we withdraws everything. So if we can actually learn to withdraw all the things, withdraw means what? Withdraw the mind which is going in all directions and bring it back to a point from where it can start going in the direction it's supposed to go, which is towards reality. If we can do that regularly, then we are not far away from the goal. We do the same thing in meditation and try to gather ourselves as one and at the same point to create our playa, which is the state we were in when we came down. So when we create the individual prayer, what remains after that? Our original existence, the eternal existence, that remains. By meditation, we make a will in our heart, covering thereby the surroundings around the heart region. So we make a sankalpa or a will in the heart. It begins to expand, extending over all the chakras in our body. Thus, all the chakras begin to glow. The circle goes onward, passing through region after region, till all begin to be absorbed in the innermost circle. What you feel there is dazzling light somewhere sometimes, because you have made our passage from the heart towards this region where you are now. The dazzling light comes in the sixth point. In the sixth and the seventh point, you feel the dazzling light. Now, the dazzling light now also begins to fade away because now you are going forward. You come in contact with different stages of Maya as well. The dazzling light is there. When you cross it, you will find yourself in a totally calm atmosphere. Here, the kingdom of God begins. Now, the kingdom of God is when you enter into the ninth point. Then you enter into the divine kingdom. There are stages and stages after which we will all pass through. Since it seems you out of place to discuss here under the heading of meditation, we leave them aside. Now, your meditation is leading you to the main point, main goal. The practice of Hatha Yoga no practice of Hatha Yoga can bring about such a result. It fails after Agna Chakra. Meditation, a part of Raja Yoga, is the only thing that can lead you to the end. There is no other means of approaching the center. We have seen that the one thought arising out of the center created so big a universe. We have got within us the same central force, though marred by our own wrongdoings. We utilize the same power which is automatic in us. We take from the same power through meditation. This is how we proceed naturally and end with the nature's force, so to say. So we utilize the same power which we have used to come down. Now we use the same power to go back up. When we meditate, the central power we have remains in force. It disperses the overwhelming clouds which are greatly fried up by its force. Only an abhyasi can feel it. This can only be known practically. You will soon find yourself swimming in the everlasting peace and happiness. Everything ends here. There is no attachment with the world. The mind is disciplined. It is automatically regulated. Senses begin to come under control and you gain mastery over them. To master yourself means mastering the nature. When the passage becomes clear, you feel nature's work within you, within your bounds and limit. Rather, you begin to work yourself. This is again something which is repeated in the later on in Sahaj philosophy also. So we shall end this particular chapter here. Any questions we can take before we move to the heart region?
Brother,
Yeah,
the thought is the only thing that made us down, and only now the thought is the only thing that we are going up with the God, reaching God.
correct.
Okay.
Wrong kind of thought will bring you down.
Yes.
Right kind of thought will take you up. That's all.
Yes. And that itself is the Raja Yoga, no?
Exactly. Because thought arises in the mind. So we
Oh.
take the help of the mind.
Oh.
So Raja Yoga is something where we try to reach God with the help of the mind.
Correct.
Now, when we use other yogas, for example, path of knowledge, we use one other aspect of the mind, which is the intellect. When we do bhakti yoga, we utilize the feeling or the emotional aspect of the mind. So when we do karma yoga, we utilize the ego aspect of the mind. In other words, when we do other yogas, we utilize only one aspect of the mind. But in Raja Yoga, we utilize every aspect of the mind for us to go to the center. That's why we actually go fast. Because we utilize all the aspects of the mind, not just one aspect. Any other question?
Brother, why did the soul came down when it was there in the central region?
The idea of separation started coming to the soul. That's all. See, when the child is very small, the child is part of the parents. The child is one with the parents and the family. Right? As the child grows, automatically the child starts feeling its individuality. Very similar thing happened to the soul. That initially when the soul was born, it is in tune with the absolute. It was one with the absolute. There was no idea of separateness. But as time passed, the idea of separateness started gradually creeping in the soul. That is the start of the individual creation. Okay?
Okay, brother.
Now, this, you might ask, how did the soul get the idea of the separation? That's also a legitimate question. Now, the only answer to that question is that is all the play of the divine, the Almighty. That's all it is. It's almost the Almighty is playing with the soul, and that gives rise to the idea of the individuality or the separation. And that then is the seed from which we have come down to this level.
Okay. Even animals also have the soul, brother.
Yeah. Same.
Animals, plants also
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. It's just that they have different levels of evolution, that's all.
Okay.
The animals and the plants have different levels of evolution of consciousness and evolution of the mind. The mind, in all its capability, is fully manifest only in the humans. That's why the human mind is akin to the primary stem, which is also called as the first mind or the big mind of God.
Brother, now you said creation is on also. Now also there is a creation going on process. Then we are like a rebirth like that. Any fresh souls are also adding to this creation?
Yeah. Fresh souls are always adding to the creation. Some of the souls are getting liberated and going to other lokas. Everything is happening simultaneously.
Okay.
That is correct. What you said is correct. Any other questions?
ಹಲೋ ಬ್ರದರ್, ವಿದ್ಯಾ.
ಹೇಳಿ ವಿದ್ಯಾ ಅವರೇ.
ನಿಮ್ ತರ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಹೇಗೆ ಸರ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬ್ರದರ್?
ಏನ್ರಿ?
ಈಗ ನೀವು ಇಷ್ಟು ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ತರ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀರಾ, ನಾವೇ ಓದಾಗ ಇದನ್ನ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಎಷ್ಟ್ ಸಲ ಓದಿದ್ರು. ನಿಮ್ ತರ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಹೇಗೆ ಅಂತ?
ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಹೇಗೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ವೆರಿ ಸಿಂಪಲ್. ನೀವೇನೆಲ್ಲ ಓದಿರ್ತೀರಲ್ಲ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ದಿನನಿತ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೀತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಘಟನೆಗಳು ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಘಟನೆಗಳ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ರಿಫ್ಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು.
ಓಕೆ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬರ್ಕೋತಾ
ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು. ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಟು ನೋ, ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ರಿಫ್ಲೆಕ್ಷನ್. ಆ ರಿಫ್ಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಪವರ್ ಡೆವಲಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. It is through the power of self-reflection that you can actually understand everything so simply. Everything just flashes to your mind automatically by the process of self-reflection. The more you do self-reflection, the more you grasp the subtlety that is associated with what Babaji has written.
ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಬಟ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ರಿಫ್ಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು. ಸೊ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ?
ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ರಿಫ್ಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಥಿಂಕಿಂಗ್ ಅಲ್ಲ.
ಅದಕ್ಕೇನೆ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ
ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ರಿಫ್ಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. Many people talk about self reflection, but they don't tell you what is self reflection.
ಅದಕ್ಕೇನೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ರಿಫ್ಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಲೋಚನೆ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿದೆ. ಅಲ್ಲ,
ರಿಫ್ಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಥಿಂಕಿಂಗ್. ರಿಫ್ಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಗೊತ್ತಾ? I'll just tell you what it is.
Yes, brother.
Suppose you read something here in the book.
Okay.
You put that into the mind.
Into the mind, okay.
Into the mind. Where does it go? From the conscious mind, it goes to the
subconscious mind. Yes.
Now, in the subconscious mind, it interacts with the samskaras that you have put in.
Okay.
Now, that interaction with the samskara, what is the samskara? If I were to put it in a different words, it interacts with the other fund of knowledge that you are already carrying.
Okay.
Suppose you have some fund of knowledge that you have gathered over a number of years.
Okay.
That is already there.
Okay.
Now you read this book. You put this into that fund of knowledge.
Okay.
Now this new information will start interacting with the older information that you are carrying.
Okay.
Now when they interact, it creates friction. Correct? When it creates friction, some points will be clarified. Some points will raise as a question. How do you know that the friction is occurring? You start getting newer questions.
Okay.
Now, when you start getting newer questions, which will seek more clarity than what you have got now, that means the process of self-reflection is on. That is a clue. The self-reflection is now occurring at the depth of your mind, in the subconscious mind.
I think all of us have to try, brother.
Exactly. Now, this is the sure shot way of progressing very fast in spirituality.
Okay. So nice, brother. I'll just
And
write
for
it.
this,
Yeah.
what is it that we utilize? We utilize our intellect.
Okay.
Many times,
Hmm.
when you don't teach anything to any abhyasi,
Hmm.
you are keeping all their faculties quiet.
Okay.
Now, do you think we will be able to learn any subject in this world without using the intellect?
No.
Right? Now, unfortunately, we have been taught that intellect is not necessary for our journey. No. If intellect is not necessary for our journey, why would all the masters write so many books?
Yes. Yes.
Why would they ask you to read books? Why would they keep exams? The simple thing to understand is that the intellect is the finest sheath that we have got. And we have developed it over many years.
Hmm.
Now, when you don't utilize the intellect for your spiritual journey, you are throwing off the most precious instrument that you have got. And now you are saying, I'm going to throw away my best player in my cricket team. I'm going to play the match
Win.
without that best player
Okay.
and try to win. Now, that would be foolish to do.
Hmm.
That's the wrong thing to do, right?
Yes. Yes, brother.
So,
Definitely.
when we actually utilize, now what are you doing now? We are going through the book, we are reading the book, we are explaining certain things. Which part of your mind is grasping all these things? It is the intellect only.
Yes.
See now, when you grasp it through the intellect, your practice now becomes deepened. You get clarity in your practice. When you get clarity in your practice, you observe many more things in spirituality, in your meditation. When you observe many more things in meditation and continue to reflect on what you get during the meditation and what you read, your sensitivity will grow. When your sensitivity grows, automatically you start enjoying the journey. When you start enjoying the journey, you would rather want to be in a journey that you enjoy, sir, rather than in some mundane things which you don't enjoy.
Yes. Yes,
Then
brother.
automatically the spirituality will start pulling you with them inside. Come in, come here, I'll give you more and more. So when we tap into spirituality, we start tapping into the treasure that is there within the heart of everyone. God has already packed every treasure within our heart. All that we need to do is, rather than look for treasure outside, we just need to turn our eyes inwards to go towards that treasure. What is the treasure that we have got? The treasure is that all the spiritual chakras, the conditions in the points, and the energy that the God has packed in each of the chakra.
Okay.
When we go and work on the chakra, what happens? The
Tokens.
chakras start opening up, the condition starts manifesting, we become more closer to reality, we draw energy from the chakra, and then after attaining the conditions and seeing that, oh, this is how I'm changing, we move and we become more enabled and enthusiastic to move to the next chakra. Then in the next chakra, the same process repeats. But the conditions that you get will be different. Now you are more enthused. Oh, in the first chakra, I got these conditions. In the second chakra, I have now got these conditions. Now your curiosity will grow. What will come in the third chakra? Let me see now. This is how the journey progresses. It's such a wonderful journey that once we actually make it interesting for everyone,
Yes.
nobody will leave this and go.
Yes, brother.
It is so intoxicating than the most intoxicating substance you will ever have in this world. The intoxication of God is the highest. There is no other intoxication equivalent to that.
Yes, brother. Yes.
But we have to convey all these things to the Abhyasis. Because Abhyasis, when they come for the sitting initially, in the initial few months and years, they don't know any of these things. If you don't teach them, who else will teach them?
Yes.
So, what you discuss with the Abhyasi to prepare their mind before the meditation is important. How the meditation session goes is important. What are the things that you discuss with the Abhyasi post meditation to clarify their points and experience is also important to develop that interest and wonder or curiosity in the Abhyasi. This wonder or curiosity that you develop in the Abhyasi in the initial stages is the end stage that they actually end up with. What is there in the world center we establish ourselves in the state of wonder. We start receiving God's impulses, God's what do you say, instructions, and we have no clue where it is coming from.
Correct.
And then you are left wondering, where is this coming from? I'm feeling all these things. So you are left in a state of wonder, even in the center, once we align with the center. That's exactly what we have to develop as a trait in the Abhyasi. Develop a sense of wonder.
Wonder.
Like a child playing the same game every day, but the child is excited to play the game with a new sense of wonder every time. Yesterday it would have played, it would have lost, it forgets everything. How come? Let us play now today. Let me see who wins. The kind of enthusiasm, the freshness, and the wonder that the child has got towards the play, that's exactly the attitude the Abhyasi should have towards meditation. Okay, yesterday my meditation was like this. Let me see how my meditation will be today. That wonder should be there. Then you see things unfold. Not only they'll be interested in meditation, but also will be interested in observing the changes in the heart all the time. Because the wonder will continue to work even when they are meditating or not meditating. This is the journey. We have, see, it's our job to make it interesting for the Abhyasi. If we do not make it interesting for the Abhyasi, then it's a real challenge. So just to give just an anecdotal thing, yesterday one Abhyasi who came for meditation said, if not for you as a trainer, I would have left meditation long time back. She said, you not only give the sittings, but you also explain so many things and make it so easy. We feel so easily connected to it. Now she's an SNP candidate. But then this is exactly what she said. Now what we are aspiring for is that each one of us in our own way should be able to do this with all the Abhyasis who come to us for sitting. It's
That's
not
what we are
necessary that all of us need to have the same way of working.
Okay.
But the bottom line should be that we should make it more interesting, more worthwhile, and more wondrous for the Abhyasi to come and take the sittings and learn spirituality. It is our job.
Thank you, brother. So nicely
Okay.
put. And that's what we are feeling every day reading with you. Thank you so much.
No problem, sister. So shall we continue then the heart region? Any other question? Because I am going pretty fast. Vijay brother was saying you are going at a super pace.
But brother, our heart is already full now to go to heart region. What sister was telling, it is rightly pointed, sir, brother. It's like it is out of the examination. I want to ask, brother, you are having so much of knowledge and other things there, but what is the driving force? Like, you spend morning 2 hours, evening 2 hours, entire time you spend in training us, and we ourselves being SNP candidate, we are not that serious, but you spend a lot of time. After seeing you only, we are chalo licking exam bulki, that kind of attitude is coming for us. But I don't know what is the driving inspiration for you that is it is I'm asking you to how much time you are spending for others. That is my just I want to know, brother.
Very simple thing. As long as we are in a receiving mode, we will form samskaras. Okay? Very simple. If you are in a receiving mode all the time, we will form samskaras, whether it's a material samskara or a spiritual samskara. When we establish ourselves in the state of giving all the time, with or without awareness, that doesn't matter. When you establish yourself in the state of giving, eventually without any awareness, automatically you will stop forming all samskaras. So the primary motive is that you have now aligned yourself to the work of the master. That's all. The more you connect with the thought of the master, the more you progress as a person, as an Abhyasi. And then it becomes imperative, once you take up the perceptor work, to also help others also to progress as much as possible. That is all the motivation. Now, when our motivation, the individual motivation, becomes aligned with the masters and the mission's motivation or the mission's motives, then your journey is also assured. The journey of all the people who are connected with you is also assured. That's all that happens. So there is no, what you say, a selfish motive here. It is like the we consciousness. We are all progressing towards the goal together. Now, when you are doing this work, one of the benefits that you get is that you are always in the state of the we consciousness rather than the I consciousness. That is one of the primary benefits that you get. We all come together every day in the evening. We all go through the book. We all discuss about certain points where it requires clarity, some clarifications, or some answers, some elaboration. When we do that, we are all learning together. And I'm actually very thankful to all of you for joining in every day, because that is a very, very big motive for me to go further into learning, to make it even more simpler. We think that we have made certain things simpler, but there could be other people who want it even more simpler. Yesterday, one of the Abhyasis was sharing their experience that when they were small, when they were a child, they could not even eat rice. So their mother used to put the rice into a mixer and then feed the child. So in other words, some people might be okay to break down the clumps of rice into the particles of rice. Some people might want the particles of rice also to be broken down further into multiple particles. Quite possible. So our ability to actually reach out to people will actually become better and better as we do this process regularly. And we want each one of you to develop this process, because that is good for your own journey and it will help you develop the we consciousness within you. And when you are established in the we consciousness, you do not come down below the Brahmanda Mandali. So the state between the 6th point and the 9th point is the we consciousness. From the 10th point onwards, the you consciousness starts. So the Pinda Pradesh is the I consciousness. From the 6th to 9th point is the we consciousness. But in that we, the I is embedded. So you can say all of us are in the we consciousness. When we come together, you said that your heart is full. Why is that your heart is full? Because you feel part of the we. When we feel part of the we, our heart becomes full. It's a very but natural thing. Now, when we move beyond the 9th point to the 10th point, we start feeling the you consciousness of God. But the I is still inherently there. But the minimum benefit that you get out of these sessions is that you continuously establish yourself in the state of the we consciousness. To be honest with all of you, in the last 2 to 3 weeks that we have been doing this regularly now, so many points we have picked up. And one of the interesting things that came in the meditation, see, the reflection goes on continuously in the heart. 2 days back when we sat for meditation, one of the points that came was, ignorance is bliss. You remember? We have a saying in English, ignorance is bliss. What the heart was saying during the meditation is, complete ignorance is real bliss. Now that's a wonderful thing. Complete ignorance is real bliss. Everyone knows about ignorance is bliss, but complete ignorance is real bliss. And the second thing which was coming just in this Sunday's satsang was, always be God-centered. Don't be self-centered. Now, once we establish ourselves in the God center, there is no question of any samskaras. There is no question of any samskaras actually impacting us. So somebody was commenting that we need to build the samadhi of others. Then I was just thinking, if that person is already established in the same state of samadhi, what samadhi are you going to build for that person? So that was a very interesting thought that came. So now these reflections will not come when you think about it. When you sit in meditation, close your eyes and be quiet. The heart will start throwing out these nuggets of knowledge. You just catch it, that's all. And that is how you actually progress. Now that is one stage which indicates now you have started catching the intuitive knowledge. This intuitive knowledge is now throwing out from the heart. Now this is coming from the divine impulse, not by your own learnings. The divine impulse starts throwing out these kinds of nuggets of knowledge. Now these nuggets of knowledge, many of the things that we discuss are not in the book. many examples that we discuss are not in the book. You might wonder where it has come from. It has come from your own heart, that's all. Each one of you will get the same thing, but in different format, according to your own set of progress and experience. So, spiritual journey is each one of us developing this capability to tap into the fund of the divine knowledge which is already within us, and then cross over that divine knowledge to establish ourselves in the state of reality. That's all it is. Seriya. So, at every point, we catch hold of divine knowledge. Every point unfolds a certain level of divine knowledge. That is all it is. Serena. So, I hope I have answered your question, Nagaraj brother.
Yes, brother. Yes, brother.
Okay.
It's very nice, brother.
Okay. So, shall we continue? Now, we need to, what do you say, overfill Nagaraj brother's heart now.
Yes, brother. Thank
We
you,
should
brother.
do that now. Okay, no problem. So, heart region. Now, people generally think of the heart as made up of flesh and blood only. Whenever the idea of heart comes to them, they locate its position as that of the heart made of the things said above. This is one of the limitations in viewing the heart region in its broader sense. It is really a vast circle covering everything from the inner and outer. The things after the first mind of God all belong to the region of the heart. All the lotuses, all the chakras are set within its limit. Please underline this. So, where is the first mind of the God? The first mind of the God is in the Kshobh or the stir. Everything from there up to the first point in us is heart region only. This is what Babaji is writing. Now, there's many things that you will get confused. Okay, there is the physical heart, there is the spiritual heart, there is the heart chakra, there is the heart region, there is the heart point, and there is the heart. There are 6 definitions of heart, and many people get confused about these 6 things, and then they wonder what is going on. So, whenever you read the word heart, you need to wonder, you need to accurately grasp the meaning of the word heart. Then it will be easy for you to recognize what exactly is written there. So, you know the physical heart. Babuji has just now spoken about it. Then you have the spiritual heart. The spiritual heart is on the second point. The soul chakra is the spiritual heart. So that you have got clarity. The third one is the heart region. The entire Pinda Pradesh with all the 5 points is called as the heart region. Then the heart chakra. The 4th chakra in the 7 chakras is called as the heart chakra. Then the heart point. The first point is called as the heart point. Then the heart. Heart means all inclusive. Heart means from the center up to everything in creation. Everything together, put together, is called as heart. What do you say? A narrower definition of heart is that heart extends from the tip of the toes up to the top of the head. This is another definition of heart. I have given you 7 definitions of heart. So please make a note of it. Don't get confused when you read about it in the book. We have talked about 7 definitions. Okay? So keep that in mind. It will be very, very useful as you go through not only this book, any other book that you read.
Brother, can you answer? Brother, can you just tell all the hearts once again? Heart region, heart chakra, spiritual heart, physical heart, heart point, heart, and one more, brother.
Heart has 2 definitions. One
Okay,
definition is that it extends from the tip of the toes up to the top of the head. That is one definition, but that's a narrower definition. Other definition of heart is something that includes the center and entire creation within it. Entire creation plus the center is the heart. If you take the entire creation as one thing, what is the heart of the entire creation? The center is the heart of the entire creation. So that if you take the center as the heart, that includes everything. Like if you take our heart as the center, if you say the heart extends from the top of the head to the tip of the toes, it includes everything, every aspect of our body. Likewise, if you take the center itself as the heart, then everything in creation is part of the center. Whether it's manifest or unmanifest, that doesn't matter. So I've given you 7 definitions of heart. Please keep that in mind. Okay?
Okay, brother. One more thing, brother. Why the 4th and 7th is known as the heart chakra?
4th and 7th. 7th is not called.
Second and fourth.
Only
She's
4th
talking
is
about
called.
second.
Sorry, brother. 4th and?
Only 4th is called as the heart chakra.
Oh, okay, brother. Got it.
It's also called as anahata chakra. It comes in the 7 chakras of the traditional yoga system, the Sapta chakras. Now that is in a different place altogether. So in our thing, when we talk of the heart chakra, we mean the heart point only in our system. But in the traditional yoga system, the heart chakra is the 4th chakra or the anahata chakra. Okay? In other words, they can well be called a part of this big region. The stages of human approach are lying hidden in it. The superconsciousness lies there. Sushupti is a part of it. We are all playing like ducks on the water in that region. The stage of intercommunication with the liberated souls of the brighter world starts from this place only. The individual mind plays its part in this region. It is the main artery of the God. We cannot reach him until we proceed through it. Narada is playing his tune in this region, in the heart region. So Babaji is basically explaining in this first page the importance of the heart region. Everything that we think of, all the lotuses, all the chakras, they are all mainly in the heart region only. That is what he is trying to say. Now, what exactly he means by the heart region, we'll get to know further on. Majority of the people feel nothing but their own body. Their thoughts are located on this very point. They think their body as the only instrument worth keeping. They consider it as everything. They do not want to see their body decomposed. They are all along with the doctor when they feel it disease somehow. All care for the body becomes their aim and objective. They do not want to free themselves from the idea cradling in them. They are all the time found serving their own master, the body. The soul has no value to them. It is an afterthought for them. They do not find any leisure besides. How many circles they have put around their body? The body was solid itself. They have now hammered it round and round, making it all the more hard and solid. Where do their ideas now lie? On the body or inside it? It's on the body most of the time. When we lay stress upon certain things, ideas begin to jump within inside, but in consonance with the thoughts already made. What you find within it is the idea working for the body. Now you are working for the body. So from the body, you are going to kind of going slightly inner. You get an idea that you are now working for the body. You remain in contact with such a body and you make it even more solid. Still, naturally, your ideas, when they rebound after touching the body, become more solid. Solidity was to some extent within them, as they had in some form or other in the idea of the body. Now they have become one with the body, having the same relationship with one another. So you can now well be defined as a solid globe, having the poles as well as the axis within. So we make the body more and more solid. We make the senses solid. Every organ will become solid. So I can just give you some example. Cirrhosis of liver is nothing but solidity of the liver. That's all it is. Cataract is nothing but solidity of the layer of the lens that helps us to see the world. Cataract is nothing but solidification of the lens in the eyes. That is cataract. The brain going into dementia is nothing but the solidification of the brain. So when we actually go on solidifying the body, the different organs in the body also start solidifying. Now you might ask one simple question. How do we solidify the body? Very simple. When we go on focusing our thoughts on the body, the thoughts also become solid. When the thoughts become solid, our brain starts becoming solid. When the brain starts to become solid, it becomes rigid. When the brain starts becoming rigid, the mind becomes inflexible. When the mind becomes inflexible, it starts becoming more and more sticky to anything that you give it to munch. It cannot let go of anything that you give it to munch. It continuously sticks to it. And that is when we say that you are stuck in life. This is what usually happens. So the solidity is brought about by the thoughts that we align with the body. Now, what do we do when we meditate? We don't go behind the thought. For the first time in our life, we learn how to handle the thoughts. What do? We don't go behind the thoughts. In other words, we are not allowing the thoughts to actually bounce back from the body and become solid. We allow the thoughts to come up in the level of the mind only and dissipate there only without necessarily having to go to the level of the body. Then what happens? We are not solidifying ourselves in the meditation. That's the first time we actually develop that ability. Not to solidify. Now, after having solidified to a certain extent, how to deal with solidification is a different process altogether. That's why we do cleaning. That's why we take cleaning sessions. We take individual face-to-face sitting. We take sessions from master. All these things are to remove the solidity in our system. This is what we do. However, when we do meditation also, to a certain extent, we gain control over non-solidifying the body. That's what we develop as a skill by doing the meditation properly. Suppose when you sit for meditation, you continuously go behind the thought. Then you are further solidifying the body, although you are meditating. So this is a very, very fundamental thing. If you go behind the thought during meditation, per se, that meditation is of no use in terms of your evolution. Meditation can only help you in your evolution, spiritual evolution, if you do not go behind this thought that comes during the meditation. So when Babaji says, be unmindful of the thoughts that come in meditation, you have to really do it. Then only you become more and more subtle after meditation. Otherwise, if you go behind the thoughts during meditation, we actually continue the process of solidification, although we have sat in meditation. Okay. So it's a pretty, what do you say, intense chapter, full of use for our day-to-day practice. We shall continue now. Another 15-20 minutes is there. We shall try to see whether we can actually come to 170. To know about certain limbs of the body, you find also the heart beating. You feel the respiration. You connect all these things with certain organs working. You also know that all these parts are set in different places of the body. You have the idea of the liver, the heart, the lungs, and so on. You are truly playing the part of the body as one unit, but with the solidity of things. You have nothing in your mind but this. You do not know the real play of the things. We do not know the real play that is happening from behind. You do not know where these dramas are being played. You do not know that you are tossing in your own ideas. One Abhyasi, who is a recent Abhyasi, said that thinking that we do is nothing but the stickiness to the samskaras. It is the stickiness to the samskaras. What do we do? There are samskaras. We stick to the samskaras. How do we stick to it? We think about it. By thinking about it, we create more samskaras. You work on the samskaras through thinking, which actually makes you stick to the samskaras. You go on creating more and more samskaras. So he said, you put it very beautifully. He said, thinking is nothing but sticking to the samskara. It is the sticking to the samskara that actually makes you create more samskaras. So if anybody learns how to handle the thoughts during meditation, that is a practice that you do in meditation, and apply it in real day-to-day life, they will automatically progress 24 hours a day. You practice not going behind thought in meditation. Now you have to apply that 24 hours a day. Then the real fun happens. The real journey happens. Now, if you meditate for half an hour and you don't go behind the thought, But for the next 23 hours, you go behind the thought, go on creating samskars, you are going to progress very, very slowly. Okay? What you do in meditation, you should apply to real life outside the meditation also. That is when the real drama unfolds. Really, all the conditions unfold. So, to summarize what Babuji has said, it is just that you need to remember this formula, the 3-2-1 formula. How to meditate? 3 things not to do, 2 things to do, 1 suggestion once. This is the formula for meditation. Now, what are the things not to do? Don't go behind the thought. You will get thoughts. Don't go behind it. Don't use any force in meditation. In other words, don't concentrate in meditation. Thirdly, do not imagine in meditation. You have to keep your imagination quiet or closed. The factory of imagination should be shut during meditation. These are the 3 things not to do. Then what to do? 2 things to do. Bring the attention of the mind on the heart. Observe and feel. Now you will only observe and feel if you have awareness, if you are awake, and if you are alert. So for doing observation and feeling, you have to be alert, awake, and aware. The 3 A's. Okay. Now you can also join one other thing. Don't go behind the thought or emotions. That's also necessary. So don't do 3 things, do 2 things. Then lastly, how do we start meditation? We start meditation with a switch. The switch is the suggestion that you give, that there is a source of divine light in my heart. It is attracting me within. This suggestion acts like a switch, electric switch. Like in electricity, once you turn on the switch of a light or a fan, automatically it starts working. Now you don't press the switch repeatedly. You just press it once and that is enough for the current to flow. Likewise, when you start with this switch, the suggestion, the divine current starts flowing to you. Like the electric current starts flowing in the electricity system, divine current starts flowing to your heart, and all that you have to now wait and see is what condition unfolds. That's all you have to wait and see. Now, once you turned on the fan, all that you have to do is wait for the pleasantness or the coolness that you feel. That's all you do. Likewise, you just wait for the conditions to unfold with patience, with no expectation. Now, we never have any doubt once you turn on the fan that we will feel cool once the fan is turned on. When we are feeling hot, we have no doubt about it. Do you ever doubt it? We don't doubt it at all. Likewise, you should never have doubt that whether the divine current actually will give you some conditions or not. It will automatically give you conditions because that is inherent in its work. Like it is inherent in the work of the fan to give you the condition, to give you the condition of coolness. It is inherent in the divine current to give you different spiritual conditions. Why should you doubt at all? It will happen automatically. Now, whatever I told you now, how to do meditation, you should practice the same things outside the meditation in real life. Now, one of you asked, about your interest. Why is that you do? It is very, very simple for this same reason. You will progress left, right, center if you practice it outside the meditation. Same formula. You can say this is the formula for life. If you take these the 6 steps, 3 things not to do, 2 things to do, and 1 suggestion once, as the formula for meditation, the same formula applies to life also. Then automatically all spiritual conditions will come in search of you. You don't need to go in search of it. It will come in search of you. Oh, somebody is doing meditation properly. Somebody is calling me every day. Let me go and talk to them. It will only come. All that we have to do is now do the practice correctly and wait in patience. That's why Daji writes, meditation is an act of waiting, art of waiting patiently for things to unfold itself. That's all. Okay. So we shall continue. We'll come to 170 page number and then I'll stop there. And then after that, we can have some questions. You do not know that you are tossing in your own ideas. You have made yourself quite distracted and disturbed. Why do these things happen? Why do such ideas flash across? Who supported these things to come in? Who has the reins of all these things? Who is reigning? The heart and nothing else. You have yourself made your heart in this fashion, bringing out such results. The consequence is nothing but disturbance. All these thoughts were due to the heart, and subsequently all your actions will be governed and regulated by this thing only at the first step. Wrongly if unwisely directed, correctly if properly directed. It means that the heart is the master of them all. It is the controlling agency in itself. This is the condition of your heart within you. It is working in different ways and colors. The main artery of the Almighty, with the idea of creation, is working through it. The pendulum, like movement in your heart, is nothing but the effect of the invisible motion below the center. Now, please underline this. The pendulum, the heartbeat that you are talking about, the pendulum is nothing but the heartbeat. The heartbeat that we feel in our physical heart is nothing but the effect of the invisible motion below the center. See how closely we are related to the center. Our heart base is coming directly from the invisible motion, and we don't know where it's coming from. But it is coming from very near to the center. So our heart, being in touch with that invisible motion, plays the same part in its own making according to its capacity. Thus, its functioning is almost the same of that of the invisible motion. Lo, the visible form of God, godly invisible motion. It is a drop of the ocean. So, in Surprise, Babuji is writing, lo, the visible form of the godly invisible motion. The godly invisible motions are not visible, but the heartbeat is visible. So this is the visible form of the godly invisible motion. It is a drop in the ocean. It is but a unit issued forth from the center. It is the same power in the unlimited, in a limited sense. The big thing has its unlimited powers. The limitation, however, is the outcome of our own narrow-mindedness. The heartbeat that you feel is nothing but the visible form of the invisible motion below the center. Please underline this. Now, this is a very, very important point. This will actually help you in your journey. See how closely we are connected to the center. The energy coming from the center, the invisible motion, passes through different things at different levels. It manifests as heartbeat in the first point. It becomes visible. I'll explain what does the invisible motion appear like in different places. Then it will be easy for you to catch it. The invisible motion descended from the main artery for the creation of the universe, and they spread like showers in the vast big circle. These revolving motions constituted the world, no doubt, and we see the forms she created with the Almighty through the invisible motions all around. This clearly proves that we are connected with the force of power which effected such wonderful results that we see in the world. Thus, though diversely related with each other, all things are finally connected with one and the same thing, which is the invisible motion in the center. These things are all running throughout the bigger circle of which we find our heart as a part. We have limitations created by our own thought force of will. This is why we find out inner circle of our heart separated from the things said above. Everything in the creation is actually acting according to the invisible motion that is coming down. Everything in nature is acting according to that. But we feel that we are acting separately. Our heart is acting separately because we have separated out from the rest of the things. When we remove that limitation, then we feel that not only we, but everything around is a part of one thing. This is another prayerful suggestion that Darji has given you. What Darji says, everything around you is immersed in divine remembrance. Remember that prayerful suggestion? Everything around you is immersed in divine remembrance. Now, when you say everything around you, it includes your own self and your own heart. That is also included in the divine remembrance. Now, you are going to be asked about the prayerful suggestions. So, you need to know about the prayerful suggestions. That is an examination question. Frequently, they ask it. Okay? Now, everything abides in this region. Now, Babu is talking about the heart region, not the physical heart now. the heart region. Pralaya comes here when things change and return to the source they have come from. Before things came to the present form, revolving motions commence at some place in greater y and in others lesser degree. These stoppages are the points of greater and lesser degree serve to increase the resistance, like the brackets which increases the power of the current. So when the water is flowing, if you just keep a stone in between, the water curves around it. It creates a bracket. When the bracket actually increases the force of the water. If you have observed it when you go to any river bed, no, just observe this. Just observe the water flow. As it flows normally, it hits the obstacle of a stone. It curves around it, forming a bracket. When it curves around it, it actually gathers more force. That's exactly what the Babuji is writing. At each bracket, there is marked as lotus, named after the work it does. So they are all within one circle called as the heart region. Functions of each of these lotuses are different. The stages of human development in spirituality are governed to some extent by this subcircle called as the chakras or the lotuses. So what are these lotuses? These lotuses are nothing but the nature's force coming down in two different ways. One is a greater degree, other one is a lesser degree. That creates resistance and that creates lotuses. So these are nothing but nature's force coming down. At different points, it manifests as different lotuses. If somehow or other we cross this bigger circle, then we have nothing but the first or the supermind of God, the cause of all this creation. So when we cross the heart region, we start aligning with the first mind of God or the supermind of God. Behind it, there is the center, the real goal of life. It is a very big thing, oval in shape, because the revolving motions move it in that way. So where is the center? The center is at the back, the occipital prominence. And it's of a very small, it's like the size is like of a pin head. Small tip of a pin. That's all. It's a very small oval in shape. Why do you feel that there is something under it? The current of the Almighty begins to flow in this region and rather abounds in it. There is a great mystery underlying it. On account of the revolving motions, there are some particles like those you see when you enter some dark region. When you enter a dark room, sometimes we see some light particles floating around. All of us have that experience. These ring-like particles are also present in the sacred region of God. They are different powers which the circle consists of. When you proceed through Raja Yoga, they begin to melt in till they are exhausted. All these particles melt away as you proceed in Raja Yoga. Reaching the top of this circle, which is the heart circle, various powers begin to come to the Abhyasi. The opening of each knot means the advent of some power or the other. The able master of Raja Yoga hammers them down to make the surface smooth. The power so caused by the hammering comes in the disciple automatically. Each such spark is the result of such motion coming from above. You can reach its highest point whenever you dissolve these things. If all the things get dissolved in toto, you find yourself as calm as you must have felt a little before coming into this world for the first time. Calmness prevails all over, simplicity abides nearby, plainness is the result. Okay, my suggestion is we can stop here. I'll take some questions and then we can continue tomorrow at 6:30. I hope to finish it by Saturday. Okay, I'll stop here. Any questions you can ask, please.